Welcome to Women in the Arena podcast, the podcast celebrating women doing extraordinary things in plain sight. I'm your host, Audra Egan, and our mission is to elevate the value, strength, and resilience each woman brings to the world. Without further delay, let's go ahead and start the show. Welcome in, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. This is Audra, your host of Women in the Arena podcast, where we celebrate women doing extraordinary things in plain sight. The last couple of weeks, we've been talking about how we actively support each other. For the next 2 weeks, I'm going to challenge you a little bit. The conversations are going to get a little bit harder. I'm going to talk about how we continue to actively support each other even when we disagree. Even when we're on opposite sides of an issue, we still take that as an opportunity to hear each other, learn from each other, and support each other. Please know, as you hear these conversations, that in spite of our differences, we are way more similar than we actually are different. And I can't wait to get started. So let's start the show. Welcome in, everyone. I am very happy that you're here. I have yet another incredibly intelligent and remarkable woman to speak with me today. I'm joined today by Carolyn Adams Miller. Carolyn is the leading expert on science behind the successful goal setting and the use of good grit to achieve hard things. A Harvard graduate who is also one of the first 33 people in the world to attain a master's in applied positive psychology. And this is from the University of Pennsylvania. And she has authored 7 books, including Creating Your Best Life and Getting Grit. And if that isn't enough, in her free time, she is frequently teaching at Wharton Business School of Executive Education. It is my pleasure and my honor to introduce to you Carolyn Adams Miller. Carolyn, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, gosh, it's an honor and a privilege to be asked, and I'm so impressed with what you're doing that I couldn't say no. So thank you for inviting me.
Well, thank you for accepting. And before we dive into today's topic, let us get to know you a little bit more. So tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Gosh, I am 5th generation Washingtonian. Washington, D.C. is on the lips of everybody around the world right now. So that's my hometown. I have 3 adult children. Been married to my college sweetheart for quite a while. I am a master swimmer when pools are open. That's another tough sell these days. And I'm working towards another black belt right now. So I have one and I'm working on another. And plug for self-defense. Every woman should learn some self-defense. It changes the way you walk and talk and see yourself.
Out of curiosity, what do you practice? What special martial arts do you practice?
My first black belt was in Hapkido. And then a little bit after that, I became intrigued by Chinese martial arts. In particular, I'm doing Siwei Kyun, which is a lot of self-defense, a lot of, grips and strikes and self-defense, close-in self-defense in particular. So I think it's fair to say that I could do some damage at this point if I really wanted to. But the goal of the martial arts, which I love, is you avoid conflict and combat if possible. If you can't, you redirect the energy. And if you can't do that, you block it and move in.
That is actually a perfect segue into what we're talking about today, which is about redirecting energy and having intent in a movement, a concept that has been on many women's lips for several years. And that is the idea of women supporting women. But you and I have both discussed that it needs to be more than an idea. There needs to be purpose and intent and applied action
Yep.
to actually create a forward movement with momentum. And this has been something that has been very passionate for you the last several years, and you have actually studied this. So,
Yes.
Carolyn, tell us a little bit about your investment in this and what you have created and discovered through this.
Okay. Well, I think it was the election of Donald Trump that woke me up, to be completely honest, because I think at that point, my 28-year-old daughter calls me woke. I realized that we were in the midst of a societal upheaval where it was still okay for some men to deride women and get away with it and even be elected president of the United States. And at the same time, the Me Too and Time's Up movements were launching. And I marched in the Women's March in DC in that iconic year, 2017. And what I've realized is that we haven't come as far as I thought we had. You know, the 1970s and 1980s was so much movement in women supporting big causes and even each other. But we really have slipped backwards. So I started studying the figures on where are we? Where are we with women in positions of CEO leadership in the Fortune 500 and the Fortune 100. I started looking at women being interrupted, women with money, just across the board. Do women have the power, the reproductive rights that we used to have? What's happening? And the fact of the matter is, we've really gone backwards. And I started thinking why. It's not just about society. It's not just about what men have done or culture. What I realized when I dug in and started talking to hundreds of women is that one of the last remaining problems is the one that we're often not allowed to talk about, and that is women supporting women. Do women really support each other and have each other's backs? Because mentorship, sponsorship, all of that gets a lot of press. But when I would talk to women around the world in Dubai and New Zealand and Australia, when I was going around the world teaching and talking about books and so on, this would be the one question that everyone would want to talk about, which is, what do we do about the problem of, women eating their own, essentially, cat fighting? And so as an applied positive psychologist, I realized I didn't want to get into this topic until I came up with solutions. So I studied the problem, and then I came up with ways that I think we can really change the problem. So that's how I got started. And would you like me to keep going? Or
Yes, yes.
okay.
So you put some science behind your intent. You defined what the problem was, and now you are putting that into action. So please walk us through what the action and intent should be to truly
Mhm.
demonstrate women supporting women.
Well, as I said, I think a lot of women say that they support other women. And one of the first things I heard is that, people would say, but that's the biggest mean girl in the room. Is she doesn't support anyone, but she certainly talks about it. And so I started thinking about the idea of witnesses. What would happen if we introduced a concept called ampliship? It might even be called allyship, but I like ampliship because the word amplify comes out of psychology, and it was also very prevalent in the Obama White House in terms of how women supported other women. So what I mean by that is I don't think it's enough to say you support and endorse other women's success, because what I know happens is that when another woman is successful or has a big, bold idea, quite often other women just go silent. And if you don't believe me, ask any woman you know what happens when she posts that she got an award or a raise or got recognition somewhere and puts it on LinkedIn, and everybody goes quiet. Maybe not everybody, but a lot of people. You put a post about your children on Facebook or somewhere else, you get 1,000 likes. So what is it? So I realized that one of the first things we have to start doing is training ourselves to be curious and enthusiastic about other women's successes and bold ideas and anything that they're excited about. Because when we don't act curious and enthusiastic, which is called active constructive responding, if we act any other way than that, the research shows that you're really not in support of that other woman. You're passively constructive or destructive or even actively destructive. Any one of those three things can silence a woman and cause her to abandon her dreams and goals.
So that pang, because this is resonating with me because we have been culturally trained that for whatever reason, when another woman achieves something, anything, there
Yeah.
is this weird, just this unconscious pang of jealousy that
Yep.
happens. We don't even intend for it to happen. It just is there. And it
Mm-hmm.
feels like it's something that we've inherited. And
Yes.
and so and it's an awful inheritance.
Yeah.
So I have been saying that, a rising tide floats all boats.
Yeah.
So if you see a woman uh, achieving something, from what I'm hearing that you're saying, is that cheer for them because it's not less for you, it's more for you.
So yes, and you raised several really interesting points that I've studied about, is it cultural? Are we trained? Is it instinctive and innate that we're going to be envious and jealous of another woman's success, as opposed to what we often see with men? Just imagine a field goal kicker missing a field goal on a football team. The whole team, crowds around them and pats them on the butt and takes care of them. And men have a support system for when good things happen and when bad things happen. But when good things happen for women, they often go silent because they're not used to being in an environment where other women rush in and support them, cheer with them, take care of them when they need help. So I think there is this experience where women don't often know what it's like to have a team approach to good things happening. Now, women have what's called the tend and befriend response, which is we need each other biologically. When bad things happen, we often will crowd around a woman and take care of her. It's like Hillary Clinton said, when she lost, everyone came out of the woodwork and wanted to tend to her and say, oh God, I wish I had voted for you. When she was running, there was a presidential historian who told her, you're running for the most powerful job in the world. Expect everyone to be against you because you're having the ambition and the confidence to go after one of the most powerful jobs in the world. That evokes what's called stereotype threat. And it means that a woman is acting out of role. She is not behaving as women ought to. So when a woman is going after something big and bold, like the presidency, or even just the head of a community group, what we find is that women are not often there to support them. And so I am encouraging people to automatically have the reaction of curiosity and enthusiasm, because when you do that and there are witnesses involved, it becomes the norm. It's the norm to be happy for another woman. Now, you may not feel authentic the first few times you do it, but I promise you, the research shows that when other people witness this behavior, they begin to believe it's the norm in their environment, and they begin to do it too. In the English language, there is no word that's comparable to catfighting for men. There are words that describe the condition of mean girls in our culture that don't exist for men. So I think we grow up believing it's inevitable. But it's not. It's not if we choose not to be that way. So I've studied the world to try to find where are the cultures where women have power. What's it like when women call the shots? They don't always lose in legal challenges. They don't get interrupted in every conversation. And I found two. One I'll speak of, the Musu tribe in southwest China. And what you find there is that when a woman succeeds, everyone's happy. It is a rising tide that lifts all boats. On festival days, they dress in this multitude of colors. They own the land. They are the decision makers. It's a powerful female-dominated society. So it's not biological. It's not biological. Much of this is the norming that we grow up with and the culture. And we must unlearn it, because just to circle back to Donald Trump being elected, one of the things I realized is that if we don't stop shooting at each other in the tent, we're going to continue to blame men in society for everything that befalls us. And we're just going to continue to be victims when, in fact, some of the things that we can do involve uplifting each other, not for just big community causes or global causes like reproductive rights. What if we also focus on building up other women for their individual goals? What if we come together for each other, not just big group causes?
What can we do? I know that in any big movement, you've got to start small because it's a ripple effect.
Yeah.
Give us some examples of what we can do that we can all do right now, today, that helps change this culture that we have been born into and
Yep.
start to morph it into something that we all talk about that we really want.
Okay. This is where I love the word ampliship. It's made up, but I want it to be the word of the year. I think we have to immediately share on social media networks the good news or the successes of two other women every single week. So several years ago, I started a movement, hashtag share 2 to 2. And I have been at this kind of as a lonely warrior for several years. And other women say, oh, it's a good idea, but it doesn't feel natural doing it. But for the most part, for the last few years, every week on LinkedIn, on Instagram, I find someone else's good news and I share it. I don't even have to know the people, share 2 to 2, because I think it's important to start somewhere. Just celebrate another woman's goals, not because you're getting anything from it, but because you genuinely want her work to be found. 84% of solopreneurs are women. We have to find their work in order to support their businesses and allow them to support themselves and their families. So if we're not talking on social media about other women's successes, we're going to keep ourselves all in this horrible economic position that the World Economic Forum says has gone backwards by dozens of years. We are not making forward progress with women and money. We've done it with women in education, but women and money, financial power, we have gone backwards in the last 20 years. So we must learn to share other women's successes so that their work is found, their ideas are found, their stories get told. Do you know that in Wikipedia, something like, I'm going to say like 75 or 80% of the biographies are of men? Why? Because people haven't told women's stories. So they have a project called Women in Red, where the idea is go in and find these important women in history whose names are in red because there isn't enough information on them to turn them into blue hyperlinks. We ought to have at least 50% of the biographies in Wikipedia. But we must get the word out there by supporting and being enthusiastic about other women's successes so their stories are told. They're in the history books. They become role models. They become legacies for other women coming up in future generations who hear about them. And if we don't start somewhere now in our own little circle and override that twinge of envy, then when is it ever going to happen? The house is on fire about this topic. We've got to change.
So I'm going to offer up my commitment to add to your movement of hashtag share 2 to 2.
Thank you.
I'm going to find two women that maybe I don't even know. And if people have followed my social networks, they'll know that I have celebrated some achievements of some of our past alumni. Well, that's not enough because I only publish once a week. So that means it's only 52 opportunities. So I commit to you that we will find here at Women in the Arena, we will find two women every week and we will add the hashtag share 2 to 2. That is my commitment. I challenge and request, please, my audience, please do it too. Because if we all do it, then we can't be ignored. The second thing I will say as to your comment about the Wikipedia is that there is a website out there called Quotabelle, and it is a website that is designed for quotes only about women, all only being said by women. And actually, that's the website that we use to put quotes out there every week. If we don't have a quote from one of our guests, we pick a quote from that website, and that's all female entrepreneurs, leaders, what have you.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
Yes, we're trying to push us forward together. That's what this platform is for. What I wanted to ask you is because you had mentioned something about education and economic status.
Mm-hmm.
There's something that I want to raise to your awareness. You probably already know that more women are, going after higher education more than ever right now, and there are more women that are the primary providers in
Mm-hmm.
their families right now.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm hearing you say is that even though they have more education and they're supporting their families more, their financial wealth is not following that intent. How do we fix that?
We have to get more women in positions of power. We must get more women into positions of power where they have their hands on the levers of wealth. Because even if they're the primary breadwinners, it doesn't mean that they have the power to create change in the organizations where they work. There's this big story today. We're taping this on a day when Jane Fraser has just been announced as the first CEO of Citigroup, a major financial worldwide organization. This is a big change because typically these are not where you find women in power. So I think that is a piece of what we've seen when you look at all the research on where have women progressed. We haven't progressed in the United States in women with political power. I mean, some, but certainly not where we should be. And we haven't really progressed where they have the ability to create change in organizations, uplift the salaries of women. We don't have financial power collectively yet. That can change.
So besides the active participation of sharing other women and also getting more female leaders into those pivotal roles, what else can we do as individuals that say, all I've got is a Facebook and my voice? But what else can we do? What else can we put into action to give this purpose?
So I think every woman should be in a mastermind group, and very few are in a mastermind group. So a mastermind group is a group of people who come together to support each other's individual goals. Again, I find example after example in history of women coming together for great causes. The National Domestic Workers Women's Strike in the 1880s, for example, reproductive rights. Mastermind groups are where women come together once a month, like a business meeting, probably somewhere between 4 and 7 people, and you have your own individual goals and you support each other in the process of pursuing those goals, being accountable to do them, brainstorming how you're going to get there. One of the books I'm working on right now is just a quick ebook on how to form a mastermind group, because I'll tell you what happens when women come together collectively in support of each other. And I gave you that heuristic, that thing that tells you that a woman really has your back, because anybody can test this. Throw your good news out there and just see how many people really are happy for you. How many respond with curiosity and enthusiasm? I mean, you could just do a beta out there on Facebook or somewhere, just see who responds. Those are the people who should make the first cut for people who you want to be closer to. And you can run virtual mastermind groups. I've been in virtual, I've been in person. You meet on Zoom, you meet in any variety of virtual ways, and you get together and you articulate, what is it I want to risk going after because I don't want to live with regrets? And then you brainstorm about it, and then you hold each other accountable. So some of the things that happen is that when women are in those high quality conversations, their goals get clearer, but they have to be in psychologically safe groups in order for those high quality conversations to happen. So it's not just about inviting your friends or your sister or people you know into a group. Vet them carefully. Too many women make the mistake of being surrounded by frenemies because they don't want anyone to think they're not nice. And what a mistake that is. We do that at our peril because we get one shot at this great life we have. And I know what the research is because of my book, Creating Your Best Life, which is about to be reissued. It's the first goal setting book that ever had research and footnotes in it. I know that if the first person you share your good news with, if the first person is, let's say, a sister-in-law who you think should be happy for you, but says something like, oh, that's great, but where are we going for dinner? Something a little bit passive. what we know is that you're likely to abandon that goal in the next week, or code that thing you're happy about as a bad thing. So the first person you share your good news with should be somebody who you have in a tribe. In Japan, the word is mawai, a group of people who have your back. Form it deliberately, make time for yourself, clarify your goals, have high quality conversations, and go for big goals. Because when we do, we dare to find out what we're made of. We become stories for the women coming behind us. Nothing great happens when you're playing it small. But too many women, and this is interesting research too, too many women end up leaving organizations because they knew nobody had their back. And that included other women. And so we have to first get comfortable with the idea that there are people who are forming an invisible network of support for us. And I'll say one more thing about that, because I think I've confounded some of the thinking on this whole idea that men have more confidence than women. I used to think that that was the only thing we had to talk about, where if there's a job opening, men go, oh, I think I can do it and I'll figure it out. And when women think, well, I gotta know how to do it perfectly before I stick my hat in the ring. Well, I don't think it's just a confidence issue, because the research has found that women have lots of confidence. The issue is they know what kind of blowback they're going to get when they go after that big thing. They've evoked stereotype threat, the black sheep effect. So what I think is really behind this is that when men throw their hat into the ring, they know that there's a network of other men who are going to have their back, because men are more transactional. Women don't throw their hats in the ring, I'm hypothesizing, because they don't think other women have their back. And I think therein lies the difference. I do not think it's a confidence thing. I think it's who is going to support me and not make fun of me and not tear me down if I go after this thing.
Caroline, let me share something with you that I have discovered through the process of producing this podcast, which was not something that I ever expected. And this is in alignment with your theory of women not lacking confidence. I don't think I've ever had trouble lacking confidence. What I think I lacked was value in myself.
Yeah.
And it is through the process of doing this podcast, which is incredibly vulnerable, by the way, because I put myself out there every single week. Through this process, I have found my value. And I have found my value because I am acknowledging the value in other women. Even though they're all very different from me, what I have discovered is that we all face very similar situations. They may look a little different. We may respond to them a little different. But at the base of it, they are the same. And since I am acknowledging my similarities with them, it is through that I have found my value and the value of other women. So I wanted to add to that because you're right. Your theory is correct. And I threw my hat in the ring with doing a podcast, but by the way, there's only 20% of all podcasts that are led by women. So I threw my hat in the ring because I felt like I didn't have a choice. I felt so compelled to move us all collectively forward because I have a daughter and I don't want her to do this. I don't want her to be in this. I felt compelled to do this because I felt like it wasn't going to happen if I didn't.
I've got goosebumps listening to you, because I hear the passion, I hear the commitment, and I do hear the confidence. And as you discuss this, and it goes back to your question, what could we do to change these dialogues? And I think it starts with us, every one of us individually, because as you said, you have a daughter. Not everyone has a daughter. I'm blessed with one daughter. And a lot of what I do is because I know my daughter is watching me. And if we're not going to try to be our best selves around the women who matter the most to us, then when is that ever, ever going to happen? And something else happened in my brain while you were saying that. Women who have high core self-evaluations, who believe in themselves, who have confidence and what's called self-efficacy, the I can do it muscle. I may not know how to do it, but I'm going to figure it out one way or another. They end up having higher quality conversations. So when you're picking other women who feel that same way, which is, gosh, I feel honored to be here, but have I really done that much? But they also have a sense of, gosh, I'm trying my best and I believe in what I'm doing. You're going to have these high quality conversations that then end up magnetizing people to find your podcast. One leads to the other.
Yeah, it has been a remarkable experience. Caroline, this has been such a valuable experience for me to be able to speak with you in regards to this, because I'm very passionate about this too. And if we're not taught how, or not shown how to change the dialogue and change the trajectory of our lives, then we'll continue to just churn right here, which is why it was so important for me to have you here, because you were teaching us how. You're showing us how. And it turns out that it needs to start with one small movement that then leads to another small movement. And if we're all making these small movements together, suddenly, all of a sudden, you have a very large crowd moving forward. And
it becomes contagious.
yes, and I hope that it is. I hope that it is, because I want to see more female leaders. I want to see more female entrepreneurs. I want to see more female speakers. I want that world, because I want it all for us. And like I said, Caroline, thank you for teaching us how.
Wow, thank you. I could talk about this all day. And I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to do it, because I have this dream, not just of ampliship being a word that is common in our language, but, and I'll tell you why. There is no word in our language, English language, that means happy for someone else's success. There's only two languages where that exists. One is Sanskrit, the word mudita, and Yiddish, firdan. And in our language, there is no word for being happy about someone else's success. So I want ampliship to become a word, because when the word's in the language, the behavior follows. But it starts with all of us doing exactly that thing, so that the word can then become common.
Ampliship. That is everybody's new word, ampliship. And what that means is that we celebrate all of our successes. We celebrate all of our achievements, and we do it loudly and proudly, because a win for you is a win for me. And it's a win for my daughter. It's a win for my sisters. It's a win for my mother. It's a win for all my friends. So ampliship. Everyone, please practice ampliship. And don't forget the hashtag share 2 for 2.
2 to 2. And you can find more about all of this. I get free chapters of my books at my website, carolinemiller.com. So if that would help people to go one more step and see what else is happening, what else I'm doing to try to create change, that would be great if people could go find the website.
Thank you for directing there, everybody. That is carolinemiller.com, I believe.
Yes, Caroline.
Caroline.
Yes, carolinemiller.com.
Thank you.
There's just a lot we can do. It starts today, and we're doing it because this poor world is under assault in every possible way, and all of us have the power to do something to make someone else's life better. Because there's a very famous women's website that says, if you don't toot your own horn, who else is going to do it? And I found myself screaming at the computer, other women will do it. Stop acting like that's not even an option. We can't just go around tooting our own horns all the time. The research is in. It doesn't work for women. But man, when women have each other's backs, that's when it works. Amplitude. So thank you for giving me the platform to talk about it.
It is my pleasure and my honor. And before I let you go, I'm going to give you the test. Are you ready?
I'm ready for the test.
Okay. The first question is, what are you currently reading?
Oh, gosh. I am reading the book Transcend by my friend Scott Barry Kaufman, who finished Abraham Maslow's theory of self-actualization.
Wow. In between trying to change the world, you're learning on how to change the world.
Trying.
Well, that's going to be my next question is what are you currently learning? So besides learning how to change the world, what else do you have in your bag of tricks that you're learning?
Well, my next book is going to be about goal setting theory because I went back to the beginning of goal setting in 1906 and I found that every single iteration since 1906 has been white men. And that's why goal setting theory, the science of goal setting, has not actually worked for all women. So I have a complete revamping of goal setting that's all scientific and evidence based called the Bridge Method, and I'm bringing it out soon in a book. So the Bridge methodology is going to be the first major restatement of goal setting theory since 1990 and the first by a woman.
Wow. First by a woman.
Can you believe that?
No, that stuns me.
I
That
mean, what's
stuns me.
interesting, I have to say something that is amazing to me, and that is it's very difficult for the world to see a woman as an expert if all they've ever heard are men's voices talking about that topic. And so for any of us to make a difference, first of all, we start by uplifting each other's voices and words and books and opinions and great news, because then collectively it starts the zeitgeist that women can be experts in goal setting. Women can be experts in these things that all men have usually talked about. We know that the person who's gotten the most airtime about anything is considered, even by women who are more competent, anyone who's gotten the most airtime, whose voice you've heard the most, is considered the leader and the expert, whether they are or not, which is why women's voices have to get out there. And if we're not going to do it for each other, somebody tell me who's going to do it.
We have to. We have to do it for each other because they're not going to do it for us. So we have to link arms with each other and shout for each other, cheer for each other,
Yeah.
because it will come back. I hear that what we need to do is change this culture so we can cheer each other on, encourage each other, and celebrate the wins because they are good. A win for your sister, your mother, your daughter is good. It is good for you. So everyone, please celebrate each other. Last question is, what's next for you? Which I'm sure you have a list of things that you've got on your plate. Pick your favorite on what's next for you.
Oh gosh, well the books take a lot of time, but I'm working towards my next black belt, and I really do. And it's been 6, 7 years of just hard, close-in combat, bruises, chokes. But my sparring partner committed suicide a month ago,
Oh,
and yeah, it was just devastating. An African American man who's just a great friend of mine. I don't know what happened. I don't know that anybody knows, but I'm going to do it for him and for me um, because I believe it's the best way I can remember him for the rest of my life is not just to envision him sparring against me, but to get the black belt he didn't get. So that's next.
well, that is a both courageous for doing that for him and very generous. And thank you for sharing that with us. I know that that is not an easy
Yeah,
situation, but thank you for sharing that with us
yeah,
because that's just another demonstration of how you are celebrating and you're celebrating forward.
yeah, yeah.
So,
Thank you.
so before we go, Caroline, sorry, one last statement, one final thought to leave the audience with.
Do hard things.
Do hard things.
Yep. At the end of the day, we all scan our days subconsciously. We don't know we're doing it for what we did that we're proud of. and we're not proud of the things we did that were easy or mediocre. The only thing that builds real pride, real authentic self-esteem is when we went out of our comfort zone and did something that was hard for us. So if we're shirking, going out and getting into the arena, like the name of your podcast, we're never really, ever going to have that sense of authentic pride that we all need to move forward and help other women achieve it too.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing all of your wisdom and your research and your thoughtfulness on this and giving us a roadmap and instruction on how that we move us forward. Thank you for that. And thank you for joining me today. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you. The pleasure is all mine.
Thank you. Thank you all for listening. I so appreciate your time, and we'll see you again next time. That's our show. Before I let you go, I have some business that I need to get to. First, I want to thank my guests. I am continually awed at your generosity of spirit and the vulnerability that you continue to bring to our conversations. To you, my audience, you are incredible. Thank you for growing with me, and I hope that I continue to exceed your expectations. And to my team that helps me pull this off every single week. To our composer, Star Diva, who is amazingly talented. To Alan Bruckner, our graphic designer. Thank you for taking my crazy ideas and giving it life. To Savannah Boster, our social media manager. You do this so much better than I ever could. And last, but certainly not least, our producer, my number one son, Gavin Egan. Thank you for supporting your mom with her dream. I couldn't do this without you, kid. Please follow us on our socials at Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram at arena_women. See you next week.
This is just the beginning.
That's our show. I am so grateful for each and every one of you and your unwavering support and your continued belief in this movement that has become much bigger than me, much bigger than just a podcast. It has become this forward momentum that we are all doing together. If you are ready, or you know somebody that is ready to tell your story and share your value with the world, please connect with me. You can reach me at audra@womeninthearena.net. I am so honored and thankful that you will share your story with me, and I'll make sure that it is well taken care of. I will never stop thanking each and every one of you, and I cannot wait to talk to you again next week as we share another woman's story and we celebrate her doing extraordinary things in plain sight. We'll see you next time.